Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Call the meeting to order. Sorry. Can I have a mover and a seconder to open the meeting? Councillor Coetzee, Councillor Lachance.
Moved by Councillor Coetzee and seconded by Councillor Lachance. Be it resolved, the Council for the Corporation of the Municipality of St Charles hereby opens the Committee of the Whole meeting at 6 p.m. on April 2, 2025.
All those in favor? Carried. We would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Robinson Huron Treaty Territory, and the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Atayabixning Anishinaabe. We also wish to recognize our neighboring community of Doki's First Nation. While we meet today, we would like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of lands we each call home. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations and to improving our own understanding of local Indigenous people and their culture. Can I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda? Councillor Loftus and Councillor Laframboise.
Moved by Councillor Loftus and seconded by Councillor Laframboise. Be it resolved that the agenda for the Committee of the Whole meeting held April 2, 2025 be adopted as presented.
All those in favor? Carried. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. Councillor Laframboise.
None, your worship.
Councillor Loftus.
None, your worship.
Councillor Coetzee.
None, your worship.
Councillor Lachance.
None, your worship.
And none for myself. Any announcements or inquiries? No? Okay.
None.
Yes.
It's just a brief report on the NEFC that we went to at the Northeastern Fire Education Conference. I just wanted to express my thanks and gratitude for allowing me to attend. And I think the information that was obtained was good, and it's going to help us in the near future.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Councillor Lachance. Okay, next item 6.1, Environmental Service Committee, report to Council annual monitoring of the landfill site. It was prepared by Michelle, but will be presented by Denis.
Yes, your worship, Michelle, the Director of Operations sends her regrets. She's on her way back from the OBRA conference and was picking up the newly purchased pickup truck to save the truck delivery charge. So we should have the new truck in the yard either later tonight or early tomorrow morning.
That's a safe vehicle to travel back in at least.
Yes, and she shared the drive down with the gentleman from French River, so sharing cost. As for the report, it's pretty straightforward. There was nothing standing out in the report. There is potential for savings in removing the volatile organic compound test in the spring monitoring event, so that will move forward. And otherwise, they're unremarkable in the recommendations.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions or comments for the report? Nobody has comments? All right, thank you very much. Next item, item 6.2.1, report to Council library information. Prepared by
Can I get the page number on that one? Sorry.
219.
Yeah.
220.
Taking forever. Okay, yes, so last council meeting, council asked a follow-up question. So I sent an email to the chair of the library, and as you can see, there's their response is copied and pasted here. It's like a two-parter. One was from response from the chair, and one was detailed from the librarian. One of the key questions, I'll go down in order. The line by line is attached for 2004. However, the treasurer did look at it yesterday and sent me in that year to date, there's an invoice that was not accounted from the municipality yet, because we always bill at the end of the year. So I'll just read. I can share a copy of the email, or I can just read it out. It's a very short. I see the library is on the agenda. Can you please note that this invoice, which is our annual invoice, is not included in the 2024 actuals, which shows a loss of $2,602.54. and another $8,949.91. One is the cleaning and one is the lease, because we give and we take. Needs to be added, and that would represent a loss for the library of $11,552.45. And so the library needs to deal with that. I talked to Pam, and one likely source is their reserves, but that, it just, that the year-to-date presented, is missing, the two, big invoice, which is the cleaning and part of the rent. We give and we take.
206.54 is on the report.
Oh, so that was the loss, and it must be, anyways. Pam did talk with the librarian, and she acknowledged it was not received, or it was not in that report. So it would be 26 plus the 89, total loss of 11,552. I'm assuming that's the way. I just got a, she didn't have, we don't have an updated, form, but, it's irrelevant for this one, because obviously that will have to be dealt by the library board. She just wanted to make it note that there was one missing invoice that would make it a significant loss, which we will have to deal with as a library board. Okay, so the line by line is there. And again, if council asks questions, we can officially, I can write down the questions or the follow-ups, go back to the library. If it gets too complicated, maybe we can ask the librarian or the chair to come in and assist and advance the subject faster, because doing it like this, back and forth, it's passing notes in class, it'll take forever to get the message across. The library is open 32 hours a week. That was one of the questions. The breakdown who's attending, we wanted to know the school children attending versus kids versus seniors versus adults. They sent the information what they had. So obviously the detailed, so they don't track adults or seniors, but they do track, well, the class is easy, so they have the data of the class there. And there was a circulation, which I think I added to this too, which if I go to the circulation, there, so they have a book circulation and a internet hours, internet clients. So that's a bit what's going on. There was no, other than data, there was no like breakdown or what we wanted, and I'll come to that when we get to lower the report. Resident versus non-resident, it's not tracked. So if council wishes something for the future to find out the percentage, it would have to be a request to the library board. So the standard hours per employee, so the librarian is 72 hours per period, so that's roughly 36 hours per week. And Jude is 21 hours per week. Just to note, the library is open 32 hours a week. So, how many hours are spent accounting function? Again, we knew this from past mention. It was 10 hours per week, which includes the above.
So just so I don't, so that they said 10 hours per week, but up there it's 72 hours per pay period.
So
it's 20 hours of those.
Yeah, 20 hours of those is
72.
Yeah, so obviously she spends 42 hours on a, so 21 hours per week.
47 on a 32 hour week.
Yeah, there's the numbers.
Between the two of them.
It could be a potential for them to look at cost savings, but I'm just doing as reported. How many hours accounting? Yeah, okay. Can we get a list of activities program that you had in the last 6 months? And I just picked 6 months. I could have picked a year, but I figured 6 months would have covered a significant portion of the school year and the summer. So book club, and then the attendance. There's a social club. I didn't get details. If there's one details on the program, we could do that. There's a Mighty Explorer program, true with OCOF, that brings kids and parents. They have craft on special holiday that are picked up by the parents. There's, I guess, 27 kids. The tax clinic serves 65 members of the community. So we assume to do this. And then he said they did participate in the Christmas parade, International Women's Day, and network with neighboring municipalities. Okay, there's just this goes into some details. I won't go word for word. The general duties of the administration of the office. Secretary to the board. Just looking if there's anything important. But as you go to, if there's any questions, so like I said, we can follow up, or if there's something more pertinent, we can ask either the board chair or librarian to come to council. So they do some online assistance with online forms. And coming to the end of that list. And then there's the qualification that there's no benefits to these positions. No health benefits to the librarian. Okay, so the data, the stats that are below that is what I took from the above. So I'll put the little caveat that this is my best take from the information given, and that's why there's a lot of plus or minus or approximate. So the foot traffic per their target is, per their report is 3,345. The average student per week is 41. And then I assume 9 months. They're off 2 months in the summer and between Christmas and March break and early in June. We could say 3 months out of the year there's no school children, 9 months with school children. So I estimated the traffic to be somewhere around 47%. It could be 55, it could be 40. I don't know.
About half.
Yeah, that's what I assume, and I don't know if the teachers are even counted because they see the children, but I don't know if they count the teachers in foot traffic. But again, the numbers would suggest close to half, because that was one of the questions that council was asking when we're going to be talking about the other report, approaching the school board. The book club, again, I just took their numbers, multiplied by the year. If they take time off during the summer, this might be a bit high. So it represents about 10% of the, well, 9% of the foot traffic. Social club, again, approximately 4% of the foot traffic. Explorer program, 5% of the foot traffic. The craft kits, less than 1%, it's 27 kids, so it's a very low number. The tax clinic is roughly 2% of the foot traffic. So again, there's the other numbers are I couldn't relate to the foot traffic, but the book circulation. This is from their numbers. It looks like it's mostly English books are being taken out. Again, I can follow up on that because I found that number of 93% a bit high. I figured that this kids from the school would have taken out more French books, because if it's half and half, you would think. But maybe they have the French books in class and they go there for the English books. Anyways, that was the numbers. The DVD, and then I put rental. It's not rental; it's a loan program. So there's it's about 10% of the book circulation. Internet represents roughly 5% of the foot traffic. And Overdrive, so the, I had to look it up, and this is the digital loan program. So if you are a member of the library, you can go and get your membership and log on and get digital copies of magazines to enjoy at home on your computer. So I will look into this because even I would like to become a member too, if they have access to this. That is a, I looked at National Geographic. an example. So I'm going to personally look into this, but if they have that, that should drive traffic. So, and basically that is the, in a short, I hope I answered most of council's questions, but if there's a follow-up, we can do either with just a few questions to them, or we can ask them to come now that we have a basis understanding of the volume.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions regarding this report or follow-up questions? Councillor Laframboise?
I just wanted to add, I did a bit of research from a neighboring community. Mark State Library is attached to the school itself also. Their hours of operation is about 16 hours a week. And just to give an idea, like we're 32 hours a week and they're 16. And the students that they have in St. Charles is about 41, and the ratio of students in Mark State is at over 107. They seem to be able to manage at 16 hours a week. So I'm just giving out that information because that's a big jump between 16 hours a week and 32 hours a week for our community also. So they have, I was looking at the hours, Wednesday it's from 1 to 8, and then Saturday from 10 to 12. So maybe, I don't know, something to look into it for St. Charles.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions you wanted, or that's it? That's it.
Okay.
Thank you. Anybody else here have questions or something they'd like to add?
No, I like with Julie doing some research, with the reduced hours in Mark State Warren. I mean, a library doesn't have to be open 5 days a week. It can be open more or less on a part-time basis. The thing that gets me is that the library's open 32 hours a week, but we're paying 72 hours, like 36 hours a week for the CEO, like, you know, to do extra work, the books and stuff like that. And then we're paying also a part-time person 10 and a half hours a week.
Yeah.
So, like, that's 47 and a half hours a week that we're paying to be open for 32 hours, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, it just doesn't, maybe they, like you say, maybe they could tighten it up a little bit to make it more affordable, you know, not just for themselves, but for like the contribution that we give them, sort of thing.
Okay.
So,
All right, thank you. Councilor Petit?
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement with what's been said so far. The hours are, I mean, closing at 5. I think a couple days a week is the latest that they're open. It's not very accessible to, you know, majority of the evening traffic that could be going there. If they could condense, you know, their hours into a couple days off in the week, they could get possibly more traffic in that sense. I get it, they need to accommodate the school is what their goal is in having the hours, you know, throughout the day. But maybe they need to prioritize that the school comes only in the afternoon, and they could probably still accommodate all the classes that come in still during the day. As far as the rest of it goes, I mean, they do offer quite a few programs and everything, and you know, and a lot of the assistance and everything that's provided, I'm sure it's not going unnoticed, especially with the current difficulties with Service Ontario, so them providing that help is definitely appreciated. But it's just, yeah, in terms of trying to help, you know, get the budget a little tighter, it might help in reviewing the hours. That's definitely a good note to make.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Chance, do you have anything to add, or?
Oh yeah, I think I'm on the same page as everyone else as far as having that many hours staff versus hours providing service. One of the things I know I touched on before, and they said they didn't track it separately, and I think this would just be advice to the board, is to hold a library card, they should be verifying that you're a tax-paying resident of the municipality, not somebody who lives on close to the municipality, but is really a member of a different municipality, and again, that might even reflect in Mark State Warren's hours, well, yeah, maybe they'd be open more than 16 hours a week if, people from the municipality were.
If I might add, I have a library card for the French River, so.
That's when you work there though, right?
They didn't ask about whether I work there or not, so I don't know if there's a guideline for them.
Try to go to Sudbury. Try to go in the library in Sudbury. They're gonna turn you around.
Yeah.
Cause you don't pay taxes there. I couldn't get a library card. I needed to print off a document for work and, I couldn't even use a printer or pay them to use a printer. Cause I couldn't get a library card because I didn't pay taxes there. I'm just saying, like, that's.
See, that's news for me.
For me, just an avenue of cost saving, like, it's taxpayers from this municipality paying for the service. If we're seeing that we're servicing 20% of our foot traffic is from another municipality, well, that's a problem, in my opinion. The only other thing I could have for recommendation to their board is maybe they have to reach out to the school board and say, hey, we are 47% of our foot traffic, half our foot traffic is students from your school. You don't have a library to offer them, maybe some kind of a kickback from the school board for, but other than that, it's just, again, hours paid versus hours open. To me, is I would like to think that they can conduct their business, that the library isn't so hectic that they're go during the day, every day. I would like to think they have levels where they can complete their other business.
Thank you very much. And that was news for me about Sudbury. Here we have the unique situation where we have a municipality which is basically across the street from us. So in that respect, maybe they associate themselves more with the municipality than the other one. However, having stated that, I am aware that smaller schools with less than, I think less than 100 students, the secretary at the front desk is allocated one day to work in the library. And I don't know if that is she could, instead of hiring another, that is staff that is available, that could be used, in my mind, if there'd be an agreement with the school board, because that is the norms for a school with less than 100 students. And that's something that I don't know if anybody's had a chance to look into. And the only other item is the 40 hours per month for accounting. That, in my mind, where previously the accounting was being handled, like, for the month, I think she had said in about 3 hours, 4 hours, 3-4 hours. So that's something that maybe should be looked at. If their method of accounting is that unreliable or that slow, maybe we could reabsorb the accounting and release them from that responsibility, therefore taking those hours back. That's an option. Okay, but I have no more questions either for them, other than maybe looking into whether or not the secretary could be used as a part-time in the library. I'm not sure how that could work. Okay. Thank you very much for that. Okay. Next item 6.31, report to council, future of the school lease, prepared by Denis.
Yes, your worship, as mentioned in the previous council meeting, this was wanted to be on the topic to see where we're going to go. We have received the strategic plan, obviously with some desires to have an English school. And again, this is basically to put the options on the table. Maybe all of these options are not what council wants, but it's to open up a discussion where we want to go with the school lease. So, again, obviously, we can continue as is. The empty room loss at this point is roughly $55,791, plus share of elevator cost. The library rent is just, the cost of those 3.5 rooms is $11,583, plus cleaning, plus share of elevator cost. I did it this way just to be fair and equitable, because I'm comparing the lease, because they would be cleaning wherever they go, and if they're on the second floor, they would be an elevator, so I didn't want to give a penalty to that. But unfortunately, we do take a loss on the empty rooms, and it is a seeing that we do own buildings with potentially unused space. We're paying rent for a library, even though it's maybe an ideal location to have a library near children. We do have to remember that most of the children in the community go to a different school. So, and again, here is, do we want to look at looking at alternate spaces? So, looking at the rent, because it's a second story, we have additional cost of an elevator, we have the additional cost of, they're charging us for rentable space as the stairwell, and the landing, which is shared with the daycare. I would like to take a stance, if council permits, to say to exclude that from the rent, but if they don't, it's like, we need to back it up with, like, it's this, or like, we don't want to be a partner. Anyways, this is where I'm looking for council, how serious we are, because if they say it's part of the rent, it's part of the rent, what is our comeback? Like, and the library space, again, asking for the library to be exempt from the lease because they're using half of it. The original lease, unfortunately, their rent rate, the information they provided to me is they don't want it released publicly, what's their minimum rate. But there was a discount given at the original onset of this grant because of the consideration of the library. But that's why I can't say publicly, but I will share with them, like, it's not, I think I shared it before, but I will share it again, the numbers with council, I just can't make it public. But at the original onset of the grant, we were given a discount from their lowest rate, which continues to be still below their current lowest rate. Is it enough to cover the cost of the library? Again, I'm just paying rent for stairs is really not what I like. And again, the other option is we can act as a subleasing, but we won't cover the debt of an empty room. That could be an easy, we'll be your partner, because they like to have a partner in the school. Because if they are to go to see the province, is your school use at 100% capacity? They'll say, yes, we have a community partner. If we withdraw from that and it goes either off, filled, or like no partner at all, then it's a bit more difficult when you're going for funding, when you're going to the ministry, and they will see the school as only occupied at 50%, which is basically what it is, 50% of the school. But we are a community partner, and that's what the government is trying to avoid, is the waste of space in the school. Again, coming out of the strat plan is the English school. Do we want to see what either the English Catholic or public school would be willing to establish in the community? That may form a partnership with the school here. And again, if those talks fail, you can also try to see if we can get an ear of the minister to see if he can encourage more English schools, or elementary schools at least, in this area, because I do not like to see 4 years old getting on the bus and driving 20 minutes into the community when they could be in their own community. I lived through that, and it's unfortunately, there's options here, so, and again, if we do say we wanna walk away from the school, this would be, at that point, do we look at alternate space in our building stock? Again, this one, you would look after the first 3 fail, or the fail or succeed, however you wanna look at it. But anyways, it was only open for discussion, because, I think the intent is still have a library ongoing in whatever form. But if we do want to negotiate and be firm with the school board, it may require a plan B. So, anyways, this, I'm just putting out for discussion, and council might say no, leave it alone, or we're gonna go this route, so it was just for laying out the discussion.
All right. Discussion. Councillor Laframboise, any direction?
I'm just wondering, is it easier to keep a lease to try to get an English school board to join? Or is it better to like go with the lease? And I'm just curious, like do we even have a say if we have the lease?
No.
I don't, Vinnie, can you give us information on that?
I don't know.
No.
My instinct would be to go knock at the doors of both English, Catholic and French, hoping for an immersion, because we definitely don't want to lose the French in our community. That should be a stated goal from council. But if you go see what's potential, then we'll see, is there a sharing opportunity of that school for some English and French, and encouraging it that way. I know there's, I should say I know. I will see, that would be my preferred route, but again, what I think is, depends on what council's direction is.
But as Councillor Laframboise was stating, can we sublet to another school board, or is that not? They have control on.
They have full control. They have already refused. They already said.
So they still have the upper hand?
Yes.
Okay. It's just like you've mentioned, I think it's a big, people are wanting, English, school. So I'd like to see something, pushed towards that before we start making other decisions. At least, I don't know who you asked, but I'd like to see, this brought forward. And maybe like, I would say like kindergarten to grade 6. That would, I think it would be ideal if it does happen. I think 7 and 8, they usually firm out to high schools and stuff. So I would stop it to grade 6 for myself anyways. I'd like to see at least for us to try to have a conversation or bring it forward to see if the 2 school boards could meet together.
Okay. All right. Anything else to add? That's the, you're good?
No, yeah.
Thank you. For yourself, Councillor Watkins.
Okay,
which
so
direction?
in 2004, we signed an agreement with the school board to save the school because there was no students, so we rented the upper half. Am I getting that right? Okay, so currently there's how many students in that school?
55.
Okay, so 55, so it's went up a few over the last few years. So the taxpayers, we're paying the school board to keep the building, and we're being the subleaser. To me, as a council and as a community, I think the school board should be responsible for getting their own leases and filling their rooms. Why should we be doing the dirty work? Okay, and another thing too is that we have a different area where we can put our library and save some money there and let the school take care of the school, because if the school doesn't realize, like, I mean, you can go to the school board. A separate school board is not gonna let a public school board come in. There's no way. The two of them clash, and I know that for a fact, because we tried to go here because it was French, and they said, no, you can't, but then they made me go to a public because of the mother's tongue and everything else, so they don't want English and French, like, they don't. It's the old school, you're not gonna change them. So, to me, I think if we look at getting rid of the lease, letting the school board take care of their own school, let them lease out to Alpha Portage or Okoff or whatever, or to whoever they want, that's their school. That would be saving us probably around $17,000 a year in lease, and then we can look at putting our library either at the wellness center and moving the gym, or finding an area at the arena to put the library and reduce the hours. But we have to do something, because since 2004, we're paying tax dollars, and I don't see okay, we're saying save the school, save the students, but there's over 100 kids that are traveling, like the CAO said, to Mark State because they got no school here. So let them figure it out, but to me, I would like to see the lease gone, because we've been bailing them out for 21 years, and I don't think that it's fair to the taxpayers in this town that we're bailing the school, this one particular school with a lease of over 17,000, and we're filling the rooms. If they wanna keep it, they can go get their own, they can find their own people to lease it. So.
Thank you very much. Councilor Petit.
So, just, I mean, I don't wanna mention it in the other report, because it's part of this report, but some of the, agreement, like some of the, statements in the agreement with the Conseil at the time, like 2004, so there's a lot of, requirements that they have on the municipality. So some of the requirements, you know, that they're, this, like Municipality of St Charles and operating the library will respect, you know, the organizational schedule of the Conseil. And like there's stuff, you know, a lot of stuff along those lines. So even if, you know, we wanna do some changes, with this agreement in place, we still have to make sure we follow, like, we can barely really play around with that, right? If we wanna keep the lease, but put somebody else in there instead of the library, well, we're directly against what we agreed to in 2004. So I mean, I think at this point, if we need to come up with some alternate solutions and possibly, look at releasing the lease agreement, but we need to, you know, bring some key players to the table before we just drop the lease agreement.
And keep players, you
So,
mean?
as mentioned, possibly different school boards, but in that, there's also the Community Schools Alliance, which they were at Roma, and I spoke to them, and they were pretty apprehensive about, you know, getting people together and talking about this and trying to find a solution forward. And they're you know, big advocates for that with the Ministry of Education and everything as well, because they, you know, they see it as, if we can get more kids in a building instead of, you know, having a building that's half full, it's 100% beneficial. And they're, you know, very keen to being fiscally responsible and everything in terms of that, right? So
Who was?
Community Schools Alliance.
Communities?
Yeah, so they're a nonprofit organization, and this is kind of the stuff that they work for, so. And if it gets to that point and relocating the library, there's, as you mentioned, there's a few different locations available, but I think we could look at those locations, keep them in mind, and then when we get a little bit further along, then all right, now we need to really start making a concrete plan. That way we're not just wasting time on, okay, let's make a plan of moving it into a different location, whether it's here or there or there. You know, let's see if what's reasonably achievable within the next little bit before we start clearing out some tables.
Okay.
Yeah.
One of the alternate locations was to have council meetings in one of our halls in the library here.
Yeah.
I did put it in there because, again, like you're saying, you're going cart before the horse there.
No, yeah, well, you had to come.
Oh, I had it here, so
Yeah.
I left it out.
Yeah.
All right, okay, thank you very much. Councilor Lachance?
I'd just like to say thanks to Councilor Quincy for sharing that information out from Roma. That's,
Yeah.
it's a good time for us to have someone to lean on for that. Just a few little things, like I understand, we keep stressing how we have 60 kids that get bussed out of the municipality. In my opinion, it's still better than 110 getting bussed out. And that's the other flip side of the coin. Like, I understand we're catering to French Catholic right now, that's a school that's in the municipality, but there's always a potential for having no school here, and then you're busing all the kids out of the municipality, so, I still think that, it'd be nice to have change, but that's gonna be on the board, and maybe they need a bit of pressure to make a decision, but other than that, I don't see what we can do for that side of it. The only thing that I see that could potentially be beneficial for us, with the rent costs and everything, if residents have their choice on their tax bill, what school board they contribute to, their levy fund, right? Maybe some people don't know, but I think everyone automatically defaults to the English Public School Board. And if you look at every month, or sorry, on every month, when our bills go out, you see the portions that are sent to the school boards, and the French Catholic is very low. If we could ask, well, not ask our residents, but at least educate them and say, hey, well, maybe you went to an English public school board your whole life, but where you pay taxes in your municipality, it's French Catholic. If you were to change where your apportionment's going to, maybe it would help us with a little bit of cost savings down the road on top of, because we wouldn't have to make up this difference in leasing over rooms. I agree with 100% with Councilor Putze, and we need to have a plan in place before we can decide to just start dropping leases on the fly like that, because next thing you know, we drop the lease and we don't actually have a place, and now we're out of school and a library, and so I just think we gotta plan this, and that maybe it's, the direction would be to make sure that we do revisit it in 2 months' time, or 3 months, with more information, maybe, like actually have something concrete, so it doesn't just lay stagnant. And
Yeah, I think that's one of the main objectives right now today, is to try and decide which direction, because without direction, staff are not supposed to move ahead with any of these plans. So from what I've heard, did you have anything to add before I continue, or?
oh, no, that's it for myself.
Okay, so from what I've heard so far is that there's been 2, and I also believe that we should, especially now that I'm aware of this Community Schools Alliance, maybe start to delve into whether or not the school board, because I believe there is another school, if I'm not I could be mistaken, but at the other end of the school, their district close to Espanola, or it could be Espanola, where there's a shared school between an English board and a French board. So it's not like it's something that's impossible. It's something that they have done, and I think it's actually a brand new school that they built together.
Just to add, my wife worked there, actually.
Okay, and it was it a?
Yeah, French and English.
French and English, so.
In Espanola.
Okay, so it's not something that's out of the realm of possibility, but I think if we we have to start those discussions, and so far we've got 2 counselors, and I think I'd be ready to put my voice on there also, so that could be one item of discussion that we work towards. And I think we have to take the steps to try and help out as many of not our customers, but of our constituents as possible, because we have to realize now that I think the stats were we're almost 50-50.
60-40.
60-40? Okay.
There are French-speaking students that go to English schools, and there are.
Well, I'm sorry, I was just referring to the strategic plan where they.
Yeah, that's where I was looking
60%
at.
English speaking and 40% French speaking.
Okay, so, and especially seeing that, I know before when this first contract was set up, there was a risk of a school closure. However, I believe that now they have new guidelines that prevent rural school closures. So the risk of actually causing the school to fail is less, but it would make them less probable of getting grants and upgrades and whatnot. So I think from what I've, and I'll give everybody a chance to whether or not they agree, but I think we should come back, start looking at whether or not we can bring in another school board, English with the French component with it. What do you say?
French immersion?
French immersion, thank you very much. French immersion component, so that way it's an English school board, and they know how to handle the English students. But all this time we're doing this, I think we should be looking also at reducing our costs if possible. And we could start exploring some of the other options that you said. I agree, we don't start dropping leases tomorrow, but we should start talking about, we need a change. Because the days where the municipality takes on all the load just to help the school board, I think those are nearing the end. And I agree with Councillor Deschamps, we should put a time frame for revisiting this, to see if there's been any progress. Do you have any recommendations, Dennis? How many months do you think we should?
Not knowing, because obviously I haven't reached out to any school
No, that's it.
board.
We're gonna
This is, it may be phoning up, school board saying, no, we're never interested, or yes, we've done it elsewhere, let's like stock with the French Catholic, we'll get this off going. I don't know, it would be a guess of a couple of months.
Okay.
But you need to start.
Yeah.
And at best, we could come back and say state the progress, if the progress has been a snail's pace, or if there's something that presents itself in 2 weeks. I doubt it, because.
But I also agree with Councillor Loftus, that at one point, if things are not progressing, we should look at, in a more concrete fashion, alternate library locations. But not today, but let's say we book it, we say the next update 2 months from now. And hopefully we're gonna have meaningful, or at least inklings of whether or not it's possible, and it's something we should push again, or if it's not possible, well then we know to put it aside and focus on other. Councillor Deschamps?
I just know that the lease is a 1-year lease this time around, so.
It's a 1-year lease with,
So it's adjusted with the CPI annually, and it's brought to council, the clerk, brings it, it's like an automatic renewal because it's CPI.
and
the
then
date of termination on there exactly was it?
September.
is there an early termination option or?
If you're planning these things, I would just say, usually they will, you won't make a decision moving the library.
Just say
it
we
will
have
be
time.
years.
No,
Like,
yeah.
we're pretty much committed till September, right?
Yeah.
So, as long as we know what we're doing by September, we should be in good shape,
Yeah.
or have somewhat of
And
an
that's-
idea.
And that
that's only a
should be
couple
enough time
months.
to at least understand the lay of the land with these school boards. They may respect each other and says, I won't, what if they say no, we just keep to our side of the grass, and I don't know how that works.
Okay.
At least,
Just to set the expectation too, I highly doubt that we would get anybody in there by September. So it would, if there would be anything that would even happen with the different school board, it would probably be for the 2026, 2027 year.
At least.
Right, yeah, at least, at the earliest, yeah.
But it would give us an idea if we want to add a clause in there for
Yeah.
an escape clause in September. I'm not saying that September is the day we would terminate that, but.
I was just saying that before September, you're kinda like,
Yeah.
you wouldn't be able to do anything anyway, so it's nice
No.
to get your ducks in a row, but.
Yeah.
Okay,
It is a 10-year strategic plan. Kidding about that.
we'll try to accelerate it.
Try to plan strategically.
Okay, are you in agreement with that? Yes, okay. Councilor Loftus? Okay, Councilor Pate, Councilor Deschamps, all right. All right, thank you very much, Dennis. Next report, report 632, HR 004 policy. Prepared by Tammy.
Council will excuse, I probably won't talk as much as I should, but I'm not feeling well. Anyway, recently did a quick review of the volunteer policy, noticed some issues, primarily with the wording on how the criminal record check and vulnerable sector checks were set out in the policy. It was people were to be giving us consent to get them, whereas that's not something that we do for them, they have to get it and submit it to us. So we recognized that we needed to make some changes in the policy. One of the other things was the policy was improperly named at the beginning. There was already an HR 004, so I'd like to rename this one HR 005. All of the suggested changes have been submitted to council in red, and if you have any questions, suggestions.
Okay, any questions, Councillor Laframboise?
And then for myself, I'm in agreement with the recommended resolution.
All right, thank you very much. Anybody at the table here have questions or comments?
No.
Okay.
The only, actually, no, sorry.
Councillor Poitier, yes.
The volunteer code of conduct? Is that wasn't included in here, right? And, or I don't believe I've seen it in there. There is the agreement and release. Is that something that's available on the website, or is that, I know there's a.
Which line do you see the?
Discuss the volunteer code of conduct in the, where was it again? I didn't highlight it, but.
No, okay. A volunteer, yeah, I see it. It's page 237, fourth line from the bottom. A volunteer code of conduct review and acknowledgement.
Yeah. So I just something that was like,
Do we have such documents?
Honestly.
if we don't, it's, get that removed or just,
I don't believe that we have that document, so I would suggest we remove it and maybe look to creating one.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah, that'd be my only kind of,
Okay.
kind of amendment, yeah.
Okay, good catch. And that's it?
No, yeah, that's it, yeah.
All right, anybody else? No?
Do we, same thing for the volunteers handbook, I guess that's something we have yet, or
Volunteer what? I missed that.
volunteers handbook? A couple of lines up from where you just read.
This policy.
This policy,
It would
maybe,
be-
should we change it to this volunteer policy instead of handbook, or do we call this the volunteer handbook, blah, 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 HR policy 005, or?
Consolidated into a volunteer training. I guess the handbook would include the accessibility training. If there was any,
Okay.
everything like the women's, it would include all of that in one package for them.
Okay.
To not just the policy.
Okay. Yeah, but it could include the policy in there.
It would include the policy, but there may be other items listed in that training. If there was documentation with that.
And the only other one was possibly the HR number on page 234, but I think it's just because the cross, you don't see the 4 is crossed out because of the 4.
Because it falls in line with the cross.
With the cross, yeah. So I think that was, yeah.
I have just one question. We don't have an HR policy 005 already?
Oh.
Just want to make sure.
No.
Okay, thank you. All right, anybody else? All right, thank you. Is there a resolution, we'll see about them. I can't remember. Next, report to council non-union 4-day work policy prepared by Denis Turcot.
Yes, your worship. At the request of council, this is the core part, I would take, when presenting at the next council meeting, we would take like the purpose and the reasoning, and I would make a separate policy. So this is only the core part, as council has already reviewed the other the fluff stuff. So I took the core policy and adapted it to what I would suspect council would expect of department heads. Mainly that at all fault, department heads have to cover the any shortage of staff, reverting to 5-day if there's shortage. So I adopted language. It is in the other policy, but I made it stronger in this one to realize there's a difference between a unionized staff and a department head, as the department head must follow certain specific, they're responsible for the opening of the office. So I created language, council can go over top and see if there's anything that they wish to add additionally. Again, remembering this is a draft policy, that it's not a draft policy, it's a intent of working for permanent language. So if we find it doesn't work, we may amend the language in the future, or it may be something we have to drop. The director of operation is a separate, because she has agreed, as she mentioned in her previous workplace, that the director of operation would follow the public works, and unfortunately public works and arena staff, their winter schedule is not a summer schedule. Again, she understands this, that winter she will be, once the majority of the outside, I'll call them outside workers, go on a 4-day schedule, she goes on a 4-day. If she needs to revert to a 5-day, well, in the fall, she reverts to a 5-day schedule. So she fully understands this, and this is the practice in a neighboring municipality.
Okay.
And I tried to just extend the language on the absence, the vacation overtime, night time, and coverage. Again, here there's potential for council to, and I left it blank, what's in yellow here. This is something we're gonna work on. I know council was concerned on the banking time, and I would say this is, I wanna bring it at the next meeting. I just didn't have enough time for this meeting to bring sample language. I've been talking with the mayor and on draft language. So if everything else is okay, this language is to be determined, potentially at the next council meeting. I did share with the mayor, I just didn't have time to validate the information to add it here, because obviously we, with the concern of a compressed work day, being in the office is important when it's open to the public. So maybe the intent would be is your bank tank is taken when the is not open to the public. So that's the language we're working on right now. So that's why it's in yellow. I just wanted to have the right language, and I put something in that is not what is expected. So this, I would suggest doing everything else in this particular language. We're looking at basically, if you, let's say, do a meeting 2 hours, you have to take it within so much amount of time when the office is not open.
Which would be early in the morning or?
Yeah, before 9 AM or after 4:30, or depending if we adjust the off hours. That is, I know, was some of the discussion at last council, so that could easily fix a couple of issues that I know council. I just wanted to add the language right, so I'm talking with the mayor, and the mayor may reach out and maybe discuss the intent, so we bring language that fixes the problem. Or not fixes the problem, but at least keeps staff in the office when there's public present.
Yeah. And would standardize, I think, the methodology.
Would an improved timesheet that would avoid any confusion. Unfortunately, we've noticed that there were different ways of ideology of filling a timesheet. None that I believe were wrong, but none that were the same. It's by standardizing, but and again, I'm trying to find the right language to fix this. So it's clear, whoever approves the times or the payroll will have a clear understanding exactly what went on, and not my version of my timesheet versus somebody else's timesheet, which unfortunately, as it was brought up, is I understand it and I explained it, but somebody else might say, well, that's not what your neighbor does. So that's why it's in yellow, is if everything else is all right, I'm hoping by the next council meeting to have this settled, so we can work towards a open It's at most.
Okay. Any comments regarding, keeping in mind that that portion will be looked at later, but what's been presented? Any questions, Councilor Framboise?
Just, because we're looking at, the wording during,
Labor Day weekend.
if you look at number 4, operational exception, I'm not sure if that should be in there because it really doesn't pertain to non-union staff, right? Because we're more or less talking about union workers in there.
I think it just speaks maybe in regards to the department head, the second section.
The department.
Yeah, I could change the language to, the department head in charge of certain departments may be requested. Yeah, but yeah, the first one speaks more to the, operational part of it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much it for myself there. I was just questioning that part.
All right, thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, myself, I was just, I mean, as far as the bank time goes,
Well, that's it.
whatever we decide, I know we were gonna wait to decide on, but
Okay,
I
but-
think at the end of the day, the bank time can be, like, regardless of what is decided, any bank time can be used, like, as long as it's available, can be used like vacation, but at the end of the day, the vacation needs to be approved and not cause operational difficulties, right? So at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, like, whether or not you're using.
If you get two people who wanna take the same day, you gotta do seniority based, or are you doing the?
Well, priority will be given to vacation time as opposed to bank time?
But the concept.
Yeah, but the way they're worded right now, they gotta use all their bank before their vacation, which I think is,
But if they already used all their vacation.
well, yeah, that's for sure. Yeah.
But the concept is
Then
that.
they wouldn't have any bank time, no.
Okay, the concept being is that, like, if we, and part of this is the length of the meeting, because I'm aware that some of the other municipalities have a more, and as soon as we manage to adopt some of the new procedural bylaw for the meetings, that'll help truncate and if we bring it down to being like 2 hours, I know I'm a morning guy. I'd love, and if I'd have the opportunity, I'd bank 2 hours. I'd love the chance I'd be here right early and leave half hour earlier for the next 3-4 days. In that way, it doesn't artificially increase vacation. Somebody can't say, okay, now I've got 7 weeks to take, where they've got 6, or if somebody's got 5, the weeks stay the
I
weeks.
still think you're getting confused with an hourly versus a salary position, like that.
If that's where we wanna go, we'd have to go see a professional.
And that's why it's in yellow. In this, it's like,
But if that's something we wish to go, we'd have to go see somebody that's
Alright. So-
better than what I have, than
Yeah,
ourselves.
alright, we'll leave it as is for now. I was just pointing out, it's like, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter as long as operational needs are met. Yeah, like, as far as this policy itself is concerned, like, what we write here doesn't necessarily affect what the actual bank time policy or whatever that policy falls under, it doesn't necessarily affect that, right? So that's what I was saying, like, we could,
yeah.
complete that, right? It doesn't really depend on the
Yeah.
decision.
And I'll just add, the only really thing that impacts that policy is that bank time, not on a Monday, not on a Friday. So, which is not in the bank time policy, and that's the core one, because I just had a discussion, today, and it's just like Mondays and Fridays, you wanna take one day, it's gonna be a very hard sell.
Because you're already on a 4-day work week.
And, yeah, you're on a 4-day
You're
work week,
staff.
and the thing is, if somebody calls in sick, like say Monday, I was alone in the office. There was no traffic, by the way, like Storm, but, I don't like that, but that was just an unforeseen set of circumstances. Yes.
I was here also though.
Oh, yes.
I don't count maybe, but,
And unfortunately, Service Center was closed at that day, so there was no traffic, it was an exceptional. But by preventing at least a bank day, you limit that chance of happening in the future. And knowing at the end of the day, if your department head, this is what the policy says, that some of us will, we're working 5 days this week, I'm coming in on Monday, there's not enough staff. So that was the core message of this policy as a separate, this is what this distinguished from the union, because union, if you come in, it's overtime. Us, it's basically you're here because you're required.
okay. Anything to add? Councillor Lachance, I know you've got questions whether hourly or salary.
Well, that's not for this, like, I
No.
don't, and I was gonna kind of echo what Councillor Putzi was saying, that really, at the end of the day, when you're taking your vacation, that's up to the CAO or their boss to be able to schedule and allow, make sure we're not short-staffed, right, so, everything, no, that's, yeah, that's on you, Denny. Everything else is.
It was a long day Monday.
Yes, it was.
Okay, so other than the banking time, the rest, we're all in agreement? All right, thank you very much. Next, item 641, resolution stemming from March 19th, regarding the SEAT program. That was the money going to the Lions Club. Mover and the seconder. Councillor Potier, Councillor Laframboise? Okay.
Moved by Councillor Pelletier and seconded by Councillor Laframboise, be it resolved that the funds received from the disposition of the SEAT program van as a result of an insurance claim for loss due to fire be placed in a municipal interest-bearing trust account for the intent of purchasing a replacement van by the St. Charles Lions Club Transportation Program. And be it further resolved that if the funds are not used before December 30, 2025 for a transit service, that these funds will be returned to the Community Transportation Grant Program.
Did I hear December or September?
September.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor? Carried. Next, a report to council regarding strategic plan prepared by Tammy.
So as we all know, the strategic plan is very near its completion. Part of the grant requirements was to have the executive summary at least posted by the end of March, which it has been posted on the website in both English and French, as has been provided to council with this report. It was put up preliminary just to be in compliance, so it can always be changed after the fact. So the executive summaries were prepared by Karen Jones, and she also facilitated the translation to French. So if council wants to approve that, then we can pass the resolution with that as well.
Okay, so therefore, do we have a mover and a seconder for the resolution? Councillor Loftus, Councillor Lachance?
Moved by Councillor Loftus and seconded by Councillor Lachance, whereas the corporation of the Municipality of St. Charles has retained the services of Karen Jones Consulting, Inc. for the completion of the 2025 to 2035 strategic plan. And whereas Karen Jones Consulting, Inc. has prepared an executive summary in advance of the final adoption of the strategic plan. And whereas council has reviewed the executive summary in both official languages, be it resolved that council for the corporation of the Municipality of St. Charles approves and adopts the executive summary in both official languages of the 2025 to 2035 strategic plan as attached.
All those in favor? Carried. Next, we have a document, minor variance, presented as information. Does anybody have questions? If so, raise your hand. No questions. Next, Transportation Service Committee, report to council, public work, backhoe repair. Are you to present this?
Yes, your worship, the director of operation asked me to present this to council. The backhoe had a breakdown, it's explained in here, it was the turbo crack intake pipe. In her budget, she had $2,000, which she still thinks is required for normal repairs to the backhoe. Unfortunately, the repairs with the notice that the hydraulic leaking, it was just a coincidence that both of these things happened at the same time. Unfortunately, it would encounter an extra $5,500 in repairs. She's requesting to keep the $2,000 for normal repairs along the year, so it would be a total budget line of $7,500. The treasurer's aware of this and is incorporating it into the budget. Without these repairs, the backhoe is sitting idle. It is without council's permission. We're seeking council's permission to repair the backhoe.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Councilor Framboise?
No, I'm in agreement with the recommended resolution.
Okay. Anybody else have questions? Councilor Patsy?
I just, I'm not sure where these repairs and the costs are coming from. I don't know, like, is this somebody coming in to fix it? The cylinder obviously is going out to get repaired. I
Yes.
think, I don't know if there was quotes provided, or I think in the future, just, it would be nice to just be able to see them, and, I don't know who it is that's doing the repairs on this.
I know the turbo is the normal mechanic that we use, just the turbo. Yeah, yes. So that's the one. The turbo itself was like $900 just the repairs. The hydraulic is the shop they use in Sudbury, and unfortunately, I don't know. It's the regular they always go to.
Okay.
So, but yes, definitely it's out of budget. It would have been nice to know the name of the. She told me,
Yeah.
did not retain the name.
Other than that, I mean, we need to get the backhoe back in operation, so I'm in agreement with the recommended resolution.
Okay. Anybody else? No? Okay. So go ahead, repair the backhoe. Hopefully it's a one-off and we're not gonna be visiting this again. Next. Oh, closed session. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Councilor Loftus, Councilor Patsy?
Moved by Councilor Loftus and seconded by Councilor Pelletier, be it resolved that Council for the Corporation of the Municipality of St. Charles hereby opens a closed session at 7:13 p.m. to discuss personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, as authorized under section 239, bracket 2, bracket B of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended. Topic number 1, Fire Department resignation letter. Next, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board as authorized under section 239, bracket 2, bracket E of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended. Topic 1, new litigation matter.
All those in favor? Carried.
We're back on.
Is this back now? Can I have a mover and a seconder to reconvene? Councillor Lachance and Councillor Potier.
Moved by Councillor Lachance and seconded by Councillor Petier, be it resolved that having dealt with all matters pertaining to the closed session, we hereby reconvene to the committee of the whole meeting at 7:36 p.m.
All those in favor? Carried, almost forgot. Council has been made aware of new litigation that's in the process. Can I have a mover and a seconder to adjourn? Councillor Loftus and Councillor Laflamboise?
Moved by Councillor Loftus and seconded by Councillor Laframboise, be it resolved that the committee of the whole meeting of April 2, 2025 be adjourned at 7:36.
All those in favor? Carried. Meeting is adjourned.